The fate of child stars going to Hollywood is frequently not a happy one, and why is that? In this video I'm going to try to understand what happens to these young people. They have money, fame, youth, good looks. What could possibly go wrong? The answer, it seems, is a lot. The former child star Corey Feldman has some very firm ideas on what the biggest problem is in Hollywood, such as this headline and story from the UK paper The Guardian, where they interviewed him. Feldman acted in such films as The Lost Boys, and I found many of Feldman's claims about life as a child in the entertainment industry to be truly shocking. Feldman, in this Guardian story, claims he was repeatedly Me-Too'd by adults as a child working in Hollywood, and his friend Corey Haim, from films such as The Lost Boys, was, according to Feldman, Me-Too'd by, quote, a major Hollywood figure while making the 1986 film Lucas. In this story, it claims Haim was 11 years old at the time, whereas in this story, apparently he was 13 at the time, which makes me wonder if either story has it right. In his documentary, Feldman claims it was Charlie Sheen that did this to Haim, a claim that Sheen denies, and I don't know the truth of it. The accusation would hold more weight if it was coming from Haim instead of second-hand from other people. Feldman's claims may seem far-fetched, but they have some credibility to me, because one of the men Feldman is accusing in his documentary has reportedly been convicted of doing the sort of things that Feldman claims. There is also the film career of a man named Victor Salva. Victor Salva is a writer-director who, among other things, made the Jeepers Creepers franchise of horror movies. He's been directing films for over 30 years now. His first full-length movie was a horror movie called Clown House. It proved influential on his life because while working on that movie, he was reportedly convicted for Me-Tooing a 12-year-old boy, an actor from that very film, and Salva recorded himself doing it. This was in 1988. Salva then went on to have a career in Hollywood spanning 30 years. He did that, and then he got out of jail and kept on working in Hollywood around kids. So yeah, go to Hollywood as a kid, and as a boss, you may get someone who's been convicted of doing things to children. A boss who now has massive control over your life and career. The conviction, though, is not what stopped Victor Salva getting work. He went and worked on a film called Powder with Disney just after he got out of jail. His last film was Jeepers Creepers 3, which lost money. Then he stopped directing films. That's telling to me about what will and won't get you sacked or blacklisted in Hollywood. Touching children, by all means come back and direct our movie, but lose money and you're gone. There's also the case of the director Roman Polanski, who in 1978 reportedly Me-Too'd a 13-year-old girl after giving her controlled substances. He was convicted but fled the United States before sentencing. He was also a member of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. They're the people who decide who gets the Oscars. I can't find the date he started anywhere, but he was reportedly booted out in 2018 at the exact same time as Bill Cosby. Polanski won an Oscar in 2003, but he couldn't attend the ceremony because he'd have been arrested if he did. In 2003, he was given an award for Best Director at the Oscars by Harrison Ford to a crowd of cheering and clapping Hollywood A-listers.
And the Oscar goes to Roman Polanski for The Pianist. The Academy congratulates Roman Polanski and accepts this award on his behalf.
I'm sorry, but I can't help it. I'm going to get very angry for a moment. When I see articles like this covering the actress Angelica Houston, I used to like Angelica Houston. She was more Tisha Adams. But Angelica Houston supposedly was living with Jack Nicholson at the time the Polanski and the 13-year-old girl thing happened. She says she walked in on Polanski and the 13-year-old together and, quote, she thought nothing of it. And what do you mean, you thought nothing of it? You just walked in on a 43-year-old man and a 13-year-old girl, and he tells you, oh, they were just taking pictures. What do you mean, you thought nothing of it? This just goes to show me how normalised all this was or still is in Hollywood, because when Polanski got detained in Zurich in 2009, he went there to collect an award and they arrested him. They were going to extradite him to the United States on the outstanding charges related to the 13-year-old girl. Crowds of Hollywood A-listers signed a petition for Polanski to be freed without charges. This is a list of some of the people that signed that petition. People were demanding his release on the grounds that, it was a long time ago, and he's so talented. Is that the way that works in the mind of Hollywood weirdos? You can't charge us with crimes, we're too talented. The French Foreign Minister, Bernard Kouchner, also denounced Polanski's arrest. He allegedly said, "It's a bit sinister, this business, to be quite frank. A man of such talent, recognised throughout the world. All this is not nice." So the Swiss let him go. Polanski walked. In this article, in which Houston again defended Polanski, saying his behaviour was part of a whole Playboy movement at the time, and that approaching underage girls was de rigueur for most of the guys like Roman, who'd grown up with European sensibility. He's European and talented, so what? So it's fine if he beds children? Polanski grew up in France, is that what she means? She may be right considering the response to the French Foreign Minister. And where do you draw the line if you accept that argument? Because another woman has come out to claim that Polanski did the same thing to her when she was aged 10. Is that okay too? Or is that just still Polanski showing European sensibility? There was also the recent documentary Quiet on Set, and what it claims was going on at Nickelodeon for years. Allegations have also been levelled at the director Bryan Singer. He directed on the Fox X-Men films, as well as on The Usual Suspects. But a string of young men came out with Me Too allegations about him that he denies. And by young, I mean one of them was supposedly 13 years old. This article has a quote from one of the accusers, saying that Singer, quote, would stick his hands down your pants without consent. He was predatory in that he would ply people with alcohol and other substances and then have Me Too relations with them. The thing that tempers my belief in Feldman's claims is that he refused to just come out and name the people in the press, and instead put them in a documentary behind a paywall. That comes off to me as less like someone looking for justice and more like someone looking for a payday. But this is all a common feature, kids being thrown into an adult world far too early and left in the hands of adults who are in positions of power and control over them. What could possibly go wrong? Eliza Dushku, the actress from such roles as Faith in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, started acting at the age of 10. She worked on the Schwarzenegger film True Lies, playing his young daughter in that, where she got her own Me Too allegation, accusing a stunt coordinator of doing things to her when she was aged 12. By the age of 19, both Corys, Feldman and Haim, reportedly had crippling problems with addiction, in addition to having trouble finding further work in Hollywood. That's another signature of the child star. Cute kids frequently don't make handsome adults in an industry that's obsessed with looks. Good child actors may not turn into good actors when they're grown up, and they frequently find themselves being discarded at very young ages. The rate of attrition is high, and it's extremely common for Hollywood stars to have plastic surgery, to the extent that award shows such as the Golden Globes give out goodie bags to stars who attend, and one of the recent gifts in the bag was allegedly a free facelift. The Oscars gift bags one year cost $126,000 a piece and reportedly came with a coupon for free plastic surgery, and this is another pathway into addiction. The child actress Jamie Lee Curtis ended up in chronic pain after a cosmetic procedure for baggy eyes and ended up hooked on prescription meds. River Phoenix started acting professionally at age 10. He overdosed and had a fatal heart attack aged 23. Robert Downey Jr. was reportedly introduced to acting at the age of 5 in the 1970 film Pound, written and directed by his own father. Robert Downey Jr. played a dog in it. And he was so cute. He then reportedly ended up in rehab multiple times. At age 6, a year after the picture on the left was taken, his father, according to multiple news sources, saw his child's son sneaking a sip of wine. So what do you do as a father in that situation? Well, he reportedly took the unusual choice of passing his son a joint. But this is a claim that I'm not very happy with. It's reported in the Evening Standard newspaper, but they cite an unnamed and unlinked interview. It's also claimed in the Huffington Post, whose source is CNN. And then CNN, in their article, don't supply a source either, or a quote. Lots of news sources claim this to be true, and all the evidence appears to be from other news sources also claiming it's true while providing no evidence. The Daily Mail claims in 1999 Robert Downey Jr. told a judge that thanks to his father giving substances to him, he'd been hooked since the age of 8. Then there's Charlie Sheen, himself a child star. Charlie Sheen began acting at age 9 in 1974. He had a small role in a TV movie alongside his father Martin Sheen. Then at some point he got tiger blood, and by the age of 30 he was also reportedly in rehab, then overdosed. So although each of these child stars has their own individual story, there are a worrying list of similarities and links between their stories. They usually start acting very young. Well, that kind of goes with the territory for a child star, doesn't it? How insightful of me. But Feldman and Michelle Trachtenberg started acting at the exact same age 3. They both starred in commercials at 3 years old. Drew Barrymore reportedly got her first commercial at the age of 11 months. Now, I don't think Drew Barrymore was really pushing to do commercials and sorting out auditions at 11 months old, or Feldman at 3, and I don't think it was the children making the choices at all. It's probably their parents, let's be honest. Drew Barrymore first reportedly ended up in rehab aged 13 after suffering from addiction. She reportedly got hooked at age 12. Addiction is a thing that seems to happen to a lot of young child stars in Hollywood, and it's hard to ignore the role the press plays in this, because all of these stories are coming from the press. Child stars are put in a pressure cooker under constant scrutiny. Imagine being 6 years old and being photographed everywhere you go. Just imagine the pressure, and the press are not exactly famed for their honesty. Young stars melting down happens with such regularity that it became a joke on South Park, be it Britney Spears, Amanda Bynes, Lindsay Lohan, Winona Ryder, Drew Barrymore. It's a frankly very long list. Another very frequent motif is that the child star will seek emancipation from their own parents. Essentially, it means the child can make decisions on their own behalf instead of have them made by their guardians. And it's not always as bad as it sounds. Sometimes it's done for legal reasons, apparently, like with Eliza Dushku. Supposedly she did this, reportedly because, to film, she had to work a certain number of hours that would not have been legal unless she was a fully emancipated adult. She was around 17 when she started working on Buffy. But another frequent motif is that the child star seeks emancipation while accusing their own parents of taking the money that they earn or mistreating them. This was the case for Corey Feldman. This sometimes goes well into adulthood, like Britney Spears' conservatorship being run by her father. Child stars frequently have bad relationships with their parents and frequently end up accusing their own parents of ripping them off. Drew Barrymore sought emancipation because allegedly her mother would take her to parties where she was exposed to the substances that landed her in rehab by age 13. Regular watchers of my channel, thanks by the way, will know that I've recently been rewatching Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and while doing that, something a bit spooky happened to me, because I got on to season 5 and the character of Buffy's sister Dawn had just been introduced, played by the actress Michelle Trachtenberg, who at the time it was filmed was maybe 15 years old. She was born in 1985, the episode first aired in 2001, and within hours of me watching that, the news headlines came out about the tragic passing away of the exact same actress I'd just been watching, Michelle Trachtenberg, aged only 39. I find all of this very sad, that's far too young. She started acting reportedly at the age of 3, doing an advert for detergent, and there's maybe the desire to see everything as perfect in the life of a rich and beautiful Hollywood star. There had been reports in the media of her looking unwell prior to her passing away, and dear lord, that transformation. This has been covered extensively in the press. Stars don't get to have privacy, as evidenced by Sydney Sweeney not being able to sunbathe in her own garden without some paparazzi creep with a camera hiding in the bushes taking photos. It's a lot for an adult to deal with, never mind a child. It's been reported by ABC News that Trachtenberg had recently undergone surgery for a liver transplant, only months previous. And there's no supporting evidence in that story apart from an unnamed police source and her looking ill in some social media posts. And the other sources I looked at cited ABC as their source. Rumours have circulated about Trachtenberg having an alcohol problem. That was in, among other places, the Daily Mail, and no evidence has been provided for that at all either. Not even an unnamed police source. The stories appear to be based on nothing but innuendo and people trying to diagnose her from photos. Once again, the media are being sloppy because they can't get sued for libelling someone who's passed away. Her family have declined an autopsy for religious reasons, they're Jewish, and according to the reporting from CNN, she'd had a recent medical issue and her passing was being seen as natural causes. And they were also citing an unnamed source in the police department. The press seemed far too keen to drag Michelle Trachtenberg's name through the mud with little to no evidence. She'd long been a campaigner against alcohol and substance use, and while a photo may be suggestive, while a liver failure would be suggestive if they'd even proven it to be true, liver failure is often linked to heavy alcohol use. Sometimes organs just fail with no outside help. The problem with actors is that it's hard to know when they're telling the truth or not. A lot of the actors, like Michelle Trachtenberg, that worked with Joss Whedon, the creator of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, have come out in public describing his mistreatment and bullying of them. Trachtenberg herself even alleging on Instagram that there was an on-set rule that Joss Whedon was not allowed to be in a room alone with her. Which, given the content of this video, I imagine that sounds as bad to everyone else as it does to me. Whedon allegedly had affairs with multiple of the actresses on Buffy, but it doesn't make sense for this to be a Me Too thing. Surely if you're going to accuse someone of being a bully and a tyrant, as the actors on that show have done, Me Too allegations would come out as well. Also, if they disliked Joss Whedon so much, why did they pose for a photo with him in 2017? Why did Michelle Trachtenberg cuddle up to him if he was so horrible and cruel to her? When bosses are having affairs with their own employees, the question of coercion always comes up. If, as described by the actors, Whedon had his favourites on set and was routinely cruel to people or fired people who weren't his favourites, that creates an incentive to get on his good side, doesn't it? And oh look, there just so happens to be a casting couch over there. It seems like every time it's a male feminist now, I'm just waiting for the Me Too allegation. Harvey Weinstein seems to class himself as a male feminist. I don't even understand the thinking. Is it that they see themselves as being on the side of women, so they're somehow entitled to force themselves on one every now and then? Hot take from me here, I don't think people should force themselves onto other people. It's proving difficult to pin down much of anything about Trachtenberg's life, but if it turns out she did have a problem, it frankly wouldn't be a surprise. The uncomfortable truth, as far as I can see, is that the cause of her end will probably never be determined. The press hounded her when she was alive, and even now she's gone, they still won't leave her alone.